But I'm all about variety. So I talk about owning multiple cars. No two of them ever drive the same.
Yeah.
Because they've been modified in some form over time, which makes it really hard to find a bone stock numbers matching car.
Yep.
Now, I've never really lusted after that. Occasionally, I've fallen into it, which leads me to the story of the only car I've ever sold on Bring a Trailer was my 77 ice green metallic turbo that I sold last year, which was a car I'd probably owned a dozen years. And it was the one I drove the least because it was the most original numbers matching. My turbos were actually, ironically, all numbers matching cars. And other than being lowered on wider wheel and tire combos and maybe a steering wheel change, they're all numbers matching original in some capacity. But that 77 ice green metallic turbo only had about 40,000 miles. It had all the things I don't really care about, making a difference, original toolkit, all those things added sort of the value to the car. And it was a cool color. You know, as you guys know on Bring a Trailer, color really affects the value of a car.
Sure does.
Makes no difference to how it drives, but it's like if you got a 964 RS in white, it's worth one price. And if you got one in whatever the trendy color is,
Ruby Stone,
right? All of a sudden it's worth another 25%.
Right. Yep.
So I kind of fell into that a little bit with the ice green metallic, killer combo, avocado green leather, black watch tartan, ticked a lot of boxes. So
sports seats in it, as I recall. It was a really good car.
Yeah, it was a good combo. But like I said, it wasn't my favorite one to drive.
Right.
I actually used to have two 75 turbos. I had a right-hand drive one, of which Porsche only made 32 right-hand drive 75 turbos out of 284 for the whole world.
Wow.
And only two of them were copper brown metallic. This was a car I'd imported from Australia. When I bought it, it was God's red. You know, back in the day, and all of it, 70s, 80s, 90s.
Throw on your flares, slant nose, guards red.
Copper brown metallic wasn't the trendy color back then that it is today, but there are only two of them in the world. But I hardly ever drove that car because even though I'm English, like I said earlier, I never owned a right-hand drive car.
Yeah.
And driving a right-hand drive car in LA, first of all, I'd walk to the wrong door every time to get in it. And all my muscle memory was, like, you get in a left-hand drive car, you know, you're looking over your shoulder. It wasn't even shifting with the other hand. It was more like, I got to look over this shoulder to look at the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Key's no longer on the left, it's on the right. It was all these things that my muscle memory wasn't there.
Yeah.
So even though it was a super rare car, I never fully connected with it. So the three turbos that I've got in the garage, the one being the first US turbo ever sold, the other ice green metallic turbo, that's the 70.
But stripe on the side. Look at the story on that car. It's got Euro bumperettes.
It's a Euro car.
Yeah, okay.
So back to 75, never came to America. They're all Euro bumperettes, rest of the world.
And in 74, the U.S. cars had the little skinny bumperettes.
They did.
Yeah, yeah.
75 is when it changed to the bigger, 75, 76, to go from the, 76 is the first year of the flag mirror.
Yep.
And first year of the big wide bumperettes. So that was a swap over. So, you know, for me, I just like variety. I like turbocharged cars. I mean, they're not great canyon cars, but they're great cars. It's more of a GT.
I was going to ask if you've driven one of these on a track with this narrow boost range. Seems like it would be hard to keep it, to make it into a track car. I mean, there were obviously turbocharged Porsche race cars.
Yeah, that's where left foot braking comes in, you know, where you sort of never want that boost to drop. Probably a lot easier driving one on track where you're up full tilt.
Yeah.
You know, it's like all these car companies now that are building cars that rev to, you know, 10, 11, 12,000 RPM in a street car. You're lucky to get to that RPM range.
Yeah.
Let alone keep your foot deep into the rev band. So driving a turbo on the track, you're always going to be in boost.
Yeah.
Driving it on the street and modulating traffic and flow, tricky.
Yeah.
And when you're off boost, they're not fast at all.
Yeah.
So there's my turbo rant.
Well, I love it. That's fantastic. It's helpful. I'm like you. I like early cars. I like the end of things too. The end of the 130 horse original 911 motors are attractive to me too in 68, right? Kind of the end of the original spec of the 911 was interesting to me too.
68 is a crossover from what's called short wheelbase to long wheelbase. You know, Porsche lengthened the trailing arms 2.25 inch length of the wheelbase, better handling. And then that goes through 74 long hood into what people would call G-body. And that G-body shape 74 all the way up basically to 89 when we introduced the 964 and that evolution.